One candidate withdraws from the Deputy Chief Justice race. And NCIC releases report on ethnicity in employment. Many thanks for staying with us. Our sign language interpreter is Lansa Owino. And we begin with the IEBC exit package talks. And we are yet to know, or the commissioners are yet to know, what they will be exiting the office with as the law comes into place tomorrow, the 4th. Our political reporter, Chris Tairu, is now joining us from the I&M to give us the latest developments or an update on whether we are expecting to know or the government will finalize the public or make public the details of the pay deal agreed with the electoral commissioners today. A very good afternoon to you, Chris. Many thanks for joining us here on News Desk. Is there any possibility that the commissioners might know or might know how much they're leaving office with today?
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Akisa, and dear viewers. As you correctly put it, today marks the end of the term for the 9 commissioners to be in office and pave way for recruiting new commissioners. As promised by the intergovernmental agency that was meeting IBC commissioners regarding their send-off package, the IBC commissioners were to know what each of them will be taking home. Remember that it's on individual basis, since the salaries vary, and of course there are others, maybe they had loans and maybe others had accumulated leave days. And so currently the government through the Ministry of Treasury is still working on the finer details. I've managed to talk to Eric Iraide, who is the government spokesman, and he tells me that by the end of the day we should be knowing the lump sum or the money that the taxpayer will cost the taxpayers to send the 9 IBC commissioners home. But according to him, what we can't get are the finer details on how much each of the commissioners will be taking home. This because of security reasons. But by the end of the day, we should be knowing the lump sum that will cost the taxpayers to send the 9 IBC commissioners home. And of course, as you correctly put it, the 2 acts, that's the Election Offences Act and the Electoral Reforms Amendment Act, are expected to come into operation come tomorrow. And so after that, we expect, if all goes well, then the 9 commissioners will be signing their resignation letters so that they can pave way for the recruitment of the new commissioners, IBC commissioners. And of course, Parliament resumes tomorrow after 1 month recess, and the side of the Jubilee will be expected to name their 2 representatives who will sit in the selection panel that will oversee the recruitment of IBC commissioners. Akisa.
Briefly, Chris, tell us some of the things that will be considered even as the government or the Treasury Ministry calculates how much each commissioner would go home with. What are some of the things that will be considered?
They had actually agreed that they will be their salaries will be calculated in 31% gratuity for every year served, and of course they will get their whole salary for the remainder of their term. Remember that their term was to expire in 2017 November, and so from today counting to November, those are approximately 13 months, and so they had already agreed that they'll get their lump sum for every month. And of course, they had already agreed that they'll be given a medical cover for the remainder of the term that they will have been in office. But what I'm not yet sure, and one of the issues that they had not agreed by Friday is about the transport allowance, because the 9 commissioners were insisting that they should be catered for the transport allowance until their term was to come come to an end. That is next year in November, but that we are yet to confirm. And apart from that, they'll also been assured that no one will be pushed or no any civil case or will be they will be chased with. And so as they leave office, they live in good heart and good faith, noting that what lays ahead, of course, it's the big thing to recruit the now 7 commissioners who will oversee the next general election come 2017. But of course, there are so many timelines that we are looking at. But remember that the Parliamentary Joint Select Committee had promised Kenyans that by 30th, that's last month, Kenya will be having new IEBC commissioners, but that did not come to pass since the 2 laws that were signed by the president 2 weeks ago were yet to come into effect. And so until that, that's when now the process of recruiting new commissioners begins. But we can't forget that there are really strict timelines that the Secretariat, of course, will be pushing with. First is the procurement and the testing of the BVR kits, and of course the national-wide voter registration, as well as auditing the voter registers. These are some of the key timelines that the Secretariat, of course, will be trying to cover before the next general elections. Akisa.
Chris, thank you very much for that update. That's our senior political reporter, Chris Tairu, joining us from our City Center studios with an update on the latest as the IEBC commissioners prepare to exit office and set the stage for the recruitment of new commissioners, with the country left with about 10 months to the general election. Now, a section of ODM legislators are asking CORD principals Kalonzo Musyoka and Moses Wetangula to back Raila Odinga's candidature in the 2017 general election. The MPs, who included James Orengo and Jeanette Mohamed, warned that if Raila was not given the CORD ticket, they would be forced to back Ali Hassan Joho in the 2022 presidential election. The leaders who spoke in Migori said Raila Odinga was the only CORD principal capable of beating President Uhuru Kenyatta in the race for State House.
Inastahili heshima. Na Kenya ikistahili heshima, tunataka viongozi ambao wana heshima kwa viongozi. Tunataka viongozi ambao wao wakijitokeza wanafanya kazi ya wananchi. Si uwizi. Hawa wenzetu kama Ruto anasema ati watatupanga. Tumemsikia wakisema watatupanga. Ukijaribu kupanga sisi tutavunja. Ukijaribu kupanga tena tutabomoa. Mulisema mulipanga kuiba zile hela za NYS. Na Raila akavunja.
Yule kiongozi ambaye upepo inavuma upande yake sahihi ni Raila Amolo Odinga. Yule mtu ambaye amekomaa kisiasa, yule mtu ambaye ameingia jela miaka 9 kwa sababu ya Wakenya, yule mtu ambaye ameibiwa kura mara 2 hadharani ni Raila Amolo Odinga. Na mimi nataka kuuliza watu ya CORD, kama mlifanya uchaguzi 2013 na mkashinda kama timu, mlishinda kama timu, kwa nini sasa mnataka kubadilisha saa ya marudiano ya mchuano? Kama mnataka kurudiana kwa mchuano, kwa nini mnataka kubadilisha timu yako?
Kwa hivyo niambie Mheshimiwa Kalonzo, na mimi namheshimu sana, na Mheshimiwa Wetangula, lazima they have to lower their pride and give Raila Amolo Odinga as the flag bearer of the cause.
Vikali sana na huyu nyoka mkubwa ambaye amemeza pesa za Wakenya bila kutafuna. Na nyoka mwenyewe tunamjua, amekula pesa yetu, Eurobond, NYS, SGR, Banana Kulalu.
Away from politics, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission says it will develop a deliberate and progressive formula of ensuring that ethnic diversity in public sector employment. Speaking while releasing the results of a survey on ethnic diversity done in independent institutions, NCIC boss Francis Kaparo said the bigger tribes are still taking the huge chunk of jobs in independent commissions. Kaparo has called on county governments to seek to achieve diversity in their staff. And our reporter Carol B attended the launch of that survey by NCIC, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, and she now joins us from our city center studios for more updates. A very good afternoon to you, Carol. Thank you very much for joining us. What exactly are these measures that the NCIC is talking about to curb tribalism, especially in public institutions?
Good afternoon, Akisa. Yes, a report has been released. It is a report that targets the employability of Kenyans in different sectors, from the parastatals to commissions, as well as other institutions that are of importance here in Kenya. And what the NCIC proposes or says is that 70% of jobs are actually to be given to locals, and 30% of that can be given to experts. And when I talk about 70% given to locals, if you look at the performance according to what the report says, if you look at how Kenyans are actually employed in different sectors, there's a very huge disparity when it comes to ethnicity or the people who are going to be employed in those parastatals. And well, some of the parastatals that have actually been serious in employing Kenyans from different ethnic groups. We have the Kenya Airports Authority, the Kenya Ports Authority, Kenya Revenue Authority, are some of the institutions or parastatals that have regarded ethnicity or I could say equality in the workplace. But it's still unfortunate that institutions such as the Judicial Service Commission has not been able to apply that. And Nandi, for instance, Nandi County, Kirinyaga County, some of the counties that are really performing very, very poorly when it comes to getting different people or different ethnic groups into these national assemblies. And one thing that the NCIC chairperson Francis Ole Kaparo talks about is that there's need to form a commission that will actually look at how they can be able to employ more people or more people from different ethnic groups. And the Kikuyus, the Luos, the Kalenjins form a bigger part of these institutions. And what he says is that most of these people who are employed into these parastatals and institutions and county government institutions is that they are employed according to the chief executives or the authorities in those institutions. Most of them tend to come from the tribe the authorities come from, and it is a very saddening state. And he says that if they are given more powers, they can be able to look into these issues, and maybe they can be able to streamline how these people are employed or even deployed to various parts of the country. And Akisa, what he also recommends is that, especially looking at what happened and what is happening in Moi University, he says if they can be given more powers and their mandate expanded, then they can be able to look at how different ethnic groups are employed, and some of the marginalized communities do not get the fair share of employment opportunities. And he cited one such as Kiambu County. I think that is one of the counties that he said has actually tried to employ more people. And recently they had an advert and they said that non-Kikuyus will be accepted for that application compared to other counties such as Nandi and Kirinyaga that have cited that only have one tribe being employed in those areas. And they're now calling upon the different stakeholders to have more people, more ethnic backgrounds employed in different institutions across the counties. Akisa?
Very much for that update. Carol B is joining us from our city center with updates on the survey released by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission on tribalism in public institutions. Now, despite a slump in the price of metallic minerals worldwide, mining companies in Kenya say 2016's reawakened demand is giving hope that revenues could be well up soon enough. Speaking to KTN's Joy Doreen Bira, based Titanium's External Affairs Manager Simon Wall said rutile is the best performing of the three major mineral sands produced at the Kwale mine.
Mining companies worldwide registered some of the biggest losses in mining history in 2015, stretching into 2016. BHP, Bulletin, the world's largest mining firm by market value, reported a record $6.4 billion annual loss as recently as August this year, signaling a not-so-stable environment. In line with the slump, global prices for titanium products dropped by 50% in the last 2 years, with a slowdown in China's economy worsening the market. In Kenya, Kwale-based Australian mining company Base Titanium says that it has had to review markets for ilmenite, a titanium mineral sand variant, as its prices globally fell in line with mineral commodity prices.
We produced last year 440,000 tonnes of ilmenite. Okay, this is a lower value titanium oxide product and therefore has a lower market value. Okay, but because we produce so much, it obviously makes up a significant part of our revenue. Rutile has a much higher titanium oxide level and obviously therefore is a higher value product and sells for a lot more. Last year we produced about 85,000 tonnes of rutile. And then zircon, our third product, we produced about 35,000 tonnes of this. So you can see from 440,000 tonnes, 85,000 tonnes, 35,000 tonnes across the board. That said, the rutile makes up close to 50% of our revenue. Okay, so it's a very important component of our mineral assemblage. But on the whole, it was a positive year for base titanium, operating in what has been a very difficult commodities market environment over the last 12 months.
But despite this global commodity price dip, the mineral sand mining company says numbers are starting to look up as they look to new markets to reawaken demand.
We're certainly seeing a rebound or a bottoming of the market in the ilmenite with regards to ilmenite, which is fantastic for us and for the industry. Rutile and zircon are still stable, not really going up or down at the moment. We expect to see sort of market sort of demand returning over the next couple of years and hope to see prices increase as well. But to be honest, a lot depends on what happens as far as international economy growth and all that sort of stuff is concerned.
Some of the metallic minerals produced in Kenya include titanium, gold, and iron ore. Base Titanium produces rutile, ilmenite, and zircon, some of the most sought-after mineral sands worldwide. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN News.
Thank you, Joy, for that. Now, Lady Justice Pauline Nyamweya has this morning withdrawn from the race to be the next Deputy Chief Justice. Nyamweya says she comes from the same community as the nominee for Chief Justice David Maraga. She said she withdrew in the spirit of ethnic diversity and it will be unfair to other Kenyan communities for her to be the DCJ, even if she qualifies. Now, joining us is Murimi Mwangi with the latest details on the interviews for the DCJ. A very good afternoon to you, Murimi. Thank you very much for joining us. After Pauline Nyamweya's withdrawal, what next?
Good afternoon, Akisa. Well, she had the option of proceeding with the interviews up to the option of the JSC giving that name to President Uhuru Kenyatta, but she chose to withdraw from that race at the present stage, citing the nomination of Justice David Maraga for the position of Chief Justice. And given that the Supreme Court has the 7 slots, and presently the slots that are being contested in the present interviews are 3, that of the Chief Justice, the Deputy Chief Justice, and that of the Judge of the Supreme Court, she said that judging from the ethnic background of Justice Maraga, then perhaps it was more a better decision for her to withdraw now and leave that opportunity for Kenyans from other parts of the country. But of course, many will argue that she has set some sort of a precedent in the ongoing interviews, so much so that once a Parliament is done with sealing the fate of Justice David Maraga, they will be moving on to the position of Deputy Chief Justice, and that perhaps judging from the action of Justice Nyamweya, then perhaps the candidates that have been shortlisted for the position of judge might have to take a similar route based on who the ultimate candidates for the Chief and Deputy Chief Justice will be. Remember, Justice Nyamoya had been shortlisted also for the position of judge of the Supreme Court, but she now says that she won't be appearing in any of the two interviews, much as she is qualified to serve in that second senior-most position in the judiciary. Akisa.
Thank you very much, Murimi, for that update. Murimi Mwangi is joining us from our city center studios, but at this point we will take a short commercial break. Do not go too far. We still have a lot lined up for you here on a KTN News Desk. Welcome back. You are watching KTN News Desk. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, Meru County Governor Peter Munya and Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kiunjuri clashed openly in church over who to support in the 2022 presidential race. While Munya maintained that he will be gunning for the presidency, Kiunjuri told him in his face that he does not stand a chance to beat Deputy President William Ruto, who will be vying for the top seat then. Congregations in the AIPCA, St. Matthew's Church and Imenti were taken by surprise as the two leaders tore into each other. Take a look.
Na ideology yake. Kanisa independent huwezi kuambia ingie kwa Methodist. Wanaweza kuingiana? Ya Methodist inaweza kuingiana na Catholic. Kenya ni nchi ya demokrasia. Wale wanataka kuingia Jubilee wako free kuingia. Hata wewe Kiunjuri uko free waingia na umeingia. Hata wewe ulipounda GNU yako ulikuwa unajua unafanya nini? Sasa umekuja hapa unataka kuwa mwalimu wangu. You want to be my teacher in men. Kuna hata wengine walikuwa mbunge kama wewe, hawakupata kiti na hawakupewa minister. Kwa hiyo hatuwezi kusema sisi sote tukiingia wale watakosa watafanywa minister na nani?
All right, let's now get into sports. Barcelona will stand for the second straight season at Celta Vigo on Sunday, falling 4-3 in their La Liga clash at the Estadio Balaidos. The home side, who similarly surprised the Balaguana 4-1 back in September of last year, jumped out to a 3-goal advantage with an 11-minute flurry midway through the first half. All right, we wrap it up on that note for our KTN home viewers. Many thanks for joining us. Our sign language interpreter was Lensa Owino. My name is Akisa Wandera. Do enjoy the rest of your afternoon. But we continue with the bulletin on KTN News. Do not go too far.